Introduction: a crisis that forced a national reckoning. In 2018, South Africa's civilian intelligence community faced one of the most serious credibility crises in its democratic history. Allegations of political manipulation, misuse of secret funds, illegal surveillance, factional warfare, and the erosion of constitutional principles had accumulated over more than a decade. In response, President Cyril Ramaphosa appointed a high-level review panel chaired by Dr. Sibnie Mufamadi to investigate the State Security Agency, SSA. The panel's report, released in March 2019, was more than an administrative review. It was a systemic indictment of how the intelligence services had been captured, misdirected, and hollowed out. Its findings exposed deep structural, legal, and ethical failures within the SSA, and its recommendations called for sweeping reform of the entire intelligence architecture. This documentary provides a critical analysis of the panel's findings, exploring the causes of the crisis, the institutional failures identified, and the limitations of the proposed reforms. 1. Core findings: an intelligence service turned inward. The panel's most important conclusion was stark. The SSA had undergone political malproposing and factionalization for more than a decade. Instead of serving national security, parts of the intelligence community had been used to advance political factional interests, monitor domestic political opponents, undermine constitutional institutions, and divert resources for non-security purposes. The panel found an almost complete disregard for the Constitution, policy, legislation, and other prescripts within parts of the intelligence community. This was not described as a few isolated incidents. The report concluded that the problems were systemic, structural, and deeply embedded in the SS leadership culture. 2. The structural blunder: amalgamation of NIA and SAS. One of the panel's most striking findings was that the 2009 amalgamation of the National Intelligence Agency, NIA, and the South African Secret Service, SAS, into a single state security agency was a monumental blunder. Key problems identified: the merger was done through presidential proclamation rather than proper legislation, making it irregular. Concentrated excessive power in one structure. Created an unwieldy, top-heavy bureaucracy. Disrupted the functions of both domestic and foreign intelligence. Instead of improving coordination, the panel found that integration remained incomplete, duplication persisted, and operational focus weakened. The panel therefore recommended reseparating domestic and foreign intelligence services. 3. Secrecy without accountability. Another major theme of the report was the misuse of secrecy. The panel found a disproportionate application of secrecy that undermined oversight. The SSA had become a cash cow for individuals inside and outside the agency. Secret funds, intended for covert operations, were allegedly diverted for factional political projects, personal enrichment, and non-intelligence activities. This reflected a fundamental breakdown in financial controls, oversight structures, and internal discipline. 4. Constitutional violations and illegal orders. The panel found that both intelligence officials and political actors had breached constitutional provisions, obeyed or issued illegal orders, and acted in partisan ways. The report noted that intelligence officials are constitutionally required to refuse manifestly illegal orders, but in practice, such protections were not effectively implemented, and political pressure often prevailed. This highlighted a deeper cultural problem: the erosion of professional intelligence ethics in favor of political loyalty. 5. Mandate creep and the intelligence state. The panel criticized the SSA's overly broad and poorly defined mandate, which allowed the agency to expand into areas beyond legitimate national security concerns. Examples included excessive domestic political monitoring, intrusive vetting of individuals beyond security needs, intelligence involvement in areas unrelated to national threats. This mandate creep blurred the line between legitimate intelligence work and political or administrative control. 6. Oversight failures, institutions that did not work. The report also examined oversight bodies including the Inspector General of Intelligence, the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence, JSCI, and the National Intelligence Coordinating Committee, NICOC. It found that oversight mechanisms were weak or compromised, coordination structures lacked independence, and accountability processes were ineffective. For example, NICOC was financially dependent on the SSA, undermining its independence. 7. Leadership and political interference. At the heart of the crisis was leadership failure. The panel concluded that political leaders interfered directly in intelligence operations, factional battles within the ruling party spilled into the intelligence services, and senior officials tolerated or enabled abuses. This created a system where intelligence resources were redirected toward internal political struggles, and professional intelligence priorities were neglected. 8. Key recommendations of the panel. The panel proposed a wide-ranging reform agenda, including structural reforms, separate domestic and foreign intelligence services, rebuild a leaner, more focused intelligence architecture, strategic reforms, develop a comprehensive national security strategy, align intelligence priorities with constitutional values, oversight and governance, strengthen parliamentary and inspector general oversight, reviews ministerial powers over intelligence, establish processes to investigate breaches and pursue prosecutions. 9. Critical analysis. Strengths of the panel's work. The panel's report was significant for several reasons. 9.1. Institutional honesty. It was one of the first official documents to openly acknowledge intelligence factionalization, describe the misuse of secret funds, and link intelligence failures to political interference. 9.2. Structural diagnosis. The panel correctly identified the flawed 2009 merger, mandate creep, and weak oversight structures as root causes of the crisis. 9.3. Constitutional focus. Unlike many intelligence reviews, the panel anchored its analysis in constitutional principles, democratic accountability, and human security values. 10. Limitations and critiques of the report. Despite its strengths, the panel's work had notable limitations. 10.1. Lack of individual accountability. The report focused on systemic failures, but named few individuals, and left prosecution decisions to other bodies. This diluted the sense of accountability and allowed many implicated actors to remain in public life. 10.2 Reliance on existing oversight structures. Many recommendations depended on institutions that had already failed, such as parliamentary oversight bodies. Without structural independence, these reforms risked repeating past failures. 10.3 Implementation challenges. Subsequent analyses have noted that similar recommendations had been made in earlier reviews, but were never implemented. This raised concerns that the panel's proposals could suffer the same fate. 11. The deeper lesson: intelligence capture as a political problem. The panel's findings revealed that the SSAS crisis was not merely administrative or structural. It was fundamentally political. The intelligence community became a battleground for factional struggles, a source of patronage and covert funding, and an instrument for political survival. This suggests that intelligence reform cannot succeed through organizational restructuring alone or new policy frameworks. Without political commitment to neutrality, ethical leadership, and credible consequences for abuse, the cycle of intelligence capture may continue. Conclusion: a blueprint for reform or another missed opportunity. The 2018 High-Level Review panel on the SSA delivered one of the most damning official assessments of South Africa's intelligence services since 1994. It exposed political factionalization, constitutional violations, structural failures, and systemic corruption. Its recommendations offered a comprehensive blueprint for reform, including restructuring the intelligence architecture, strengthening oversight, and restoring constitutional principles. Yet the ultimate success of the panel's work depends not on its findings, but on political will. South Africa's intelligence history is littered with reform reports whose recommendations were ignored. The true test of the 2018 panel is therefore not what it revealed, but whether the state is prepared to act on its warnings and rebuild an intelligence service that serves the Constitution rather than political factions.